right. Hey, welcome back for the fourth installment of The Launch. I've got a great guest here today, somebody that I've known for, gosh, I think we're going on 17 years, believe it or not. And again, fourth episode, and I appreciate you guys continuing to tune in, share with family and friends, but let's dive into The Launch. Today's guest, gentleman that, again, we go back. We've got some great history. I'll allow you to introduce yourself and share with us what it is exactly you do.
My name is Vince Cortez. I'm the owner of Dope Barbershops here in Fresno. We have 3 locations, one on the Fig Garden Loop, one on First and Ease, and one in Clovis and Herndon. Right. And I'm a barber.
Oh, he's a barber. And an interesting fact, our boys, coincidentally, born about a week apart, and have been, really good friends, very close friends, best of friends for pretty much their entire life. I mean, we got pictures of them, and their bouncers at the gym.
We were just talking about that the other night. We have a picture of Jason and Luke right next to each other when they were babies, and then we showed them a new picture of them, and it's crazy to see how fast they've grown up.
It's cool. And the great thing about this podcast, is Vince, is I've told the listeners over the last few episodes is this gives me a chance to kind of reconnect with the people that I've been able to see grow, have been able to do something, get outside of their comfort zone. And I know, around that time when you got your barber's license, as we were talking prior to recording, tell us about how long it's been since, you got started.
I got my barber license, I think, in about 10 or 11. It's probably closer to 10 when I started school. It was more of I had to find an alternative source of income when the market crashed. We were trying to find something that was recession-proof. Always cut hair. Always had a talent for it. Didn't know that I could make it into a career. I was super scared to take that leap, but my son's mother, Marissa Ramirez, she pushed me to do it and said, you were going to be really good at this, and I know you're going to be successful. And so we kind of just dove in, head first. Yeah.
And I mean, even going back to when I first met you, my impression of you was somebody, I'm like, man, this guy's a hustler. He looks like somebody that, I know you were constantly definitely the entrepreneur, right? That young entrepreneur. I think we're probably in our early 20s at the time. Dang, time is flying by. But it's been.
Don't say my age.
Yeah, it's okay. But it's been really cool to see that progression. Like you said, you were looking for something that could be recession proof, but you did have a talent at it. How did that talent become a passion?
That's a good question. So I had my degree from Fresno State. Was in sales, finance, did all that stuff. Was always trying to do something with that route, but wasn't passionate about it at all. Hated going to work, hated working 10 to 12-hour days. Didn't want to miss my kid growing up, and so it was more of going out, finding something that I didn't even know that I was going to be passionate about in the first place. Just knew that I liked doing it, and I only did it to myself, did a couple of friends when we were in high school. But didn't know that I was going to be good at it at all. And once I really got into going to school, meeting a lot of the other guys that had similar, backgrounds as me. Going to the shows that they had, the trade shows, some of the barber battles and all that stuff. Then it became something that was, took full force. That that was like, man, I really love this, and I really love the people that I've met and the people that I'm coming in contact with, and that's where the passion came from. Right
on. So just the culture of it all.
100%.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about that even in real estate. Some people are excited with the upside of potential of helping people and getting them into homes. But then once you're in here and you're like surrounded with, the investment aspects of it, the design and everything, there's just so much more to it, right? And I know that just watching you and knowing you for as long as I have now, I've seen that the barber culture is a lot more, right? I mean, you're giving people opportunity even as a business owner. So tell us a little bit. Now, you said Dope has been around for how long?
We opened our first shop, and it was actually December of 16, but it didn't go, get up and running, full force until that January. So January of 17.
Yeah, and I've got an interesting story about that. I remember we were helping clean up at the Liberty Carnival where our kids were, enjoying their time. They're still running around. The night's going down, and me and you are folding up chairs. And I had asked you, Vince, what's your long play with being a barber? And, you were kind of like, well, because you had a ton of respect for where you were at that time. And you said, my plan is to eventually open my own. And I think that's what I'm really leaning to. And, we had that conversation. That was in October of that year, just to give you kind of some perspective. And for those out there listening, right, And believe it or not, I had some people that were in my ear about, hey, what is your, asking me, what is your, what do you plan on doing with this, long term? So at one point, I'd love to kind of take that next, that leap of faith, and do it. But I was always scared, and I don't know why. I had all these, limiting beliefs and whatnot. And then, believe it or not, that was one of the determining factors that really said, you know what, I think I'm gonna take the leap. Right. I think, talking to you and you kind of doing what you were doing, I was like, you know what, that window for me is closing. And so I was it was just a pivotal point, believe it or not, that conversation we had that night. Wow. I was like, you know what, I'm doing it. And I talked to my brothers, and we start kind of like in our minds figuring out what was going to be that next move. So now looking back then, what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome? And this is, great information for people that are getting ready to take that launch and do something big in their lives.
Fear and money.
Yeah.
Big time. So it was fear and money. It was the fear of the unknown.
Right.
Not knowing how to even start to open up my own shop, what the next steps were, and then the capital to do it.
Right.
So it was trying to figure out. I mean, I've always had a game plan. I remember being in school, and doodling in my book saying, dope. And, I already had these thoughts of what I wanted to do, the concepts of it. And so, I mean, that wasn't too hard, but it was just taking those next steps of how to figure out how to do it.
Right.
So, talking to people in real estate, talking to people about commercial real estate, talking to people about leases. Yeah. I didn't know anything about leases. And then having the capital to do it, to figure out a way to make my shop stand, apart from everybody else. I didn't want to do a cookie cutter shop. Yep. I didn't want to call it Vince Cortez's Barbershop. There's hundreds of those, and that's nobody's gonna ever really do something that's gonna be sustainable as that. So it was always trying to figure out what my next steps were and how to get there.
Right. And obviously we'd like to say that we got to, where we at all by ourselves. Who were some of your mentors, or who kind of helped guide you through some of those tougher times early on?
The biggest mentor I had in the barber industry, I mean, besides, my son's mother, who she just was the biggest motivating factor for me, always standing behind me, always pushing me, always there to tell me that you're gonna be good at this. Don't be afraid. You've been successful in everything that you've tried to do before. That this is not gonna be different. So other than her, but the main barber mentor I had was Alex De La Mora, and he was the owner of the Fade Shops, and he's still around right now. But I remember sitting down with him and telling him, he came to our school to do a cut and a demo, talk to us about the business, and I remember walking up to him afterwards and saying, I want to work for you. Yeah. And as soon as I get my license, I'm going to come down there and start working. And he was like, whoa, slow down. But he was like, yeah, come talk to me when you get your license. Yeah. As soon as I did that, I walked in the first day, and I remember him telling him, I'm going to open up my own shop. Yeah. I'm going to learn everything I can from you, and I'm going to apply it to what I'm going to do. Yeah. And that's my goal. And he was more than happy to say, you know what, I'm there for you, and I can help you out in any way. When you do decide to, we'll awesome. Sit down and we'll talk, and I'll help you get there. And so that's how I've kind of taken that approach with my guys now too, that as soon as somebody comes in, and if they have that goal, I'm going to be right behind them and trying to help them as much as I can. That's
cool. And that's a great lesson for anybody out there, right? I mean, obviously you sought somebody out that you saw was doing it at a high level, to not be afraid to approach them, and then, be very assertive of what you want. Right. And then that was pretty neat on how he had your back and said, hey man, you pour into me, I'm going to pour into you. And, here you are 3+ years later, and you've got a great brand. Right. Speaking of the brand, you said it in your, in kind of what your last explaining is like, your goal was not to just come out and have something cookie cutter. You wanted it to go big. How did you come up with the name Dope?
So we were always talking about, something that I come from a side of, trying to market things. I always wanted something that's marketable, something that's going to catch people's eyes. And I always thought a one-word symbol would be good for that, that we can put it on shirts, we can put it on hats, we can, come up with different phrases for it to market it. And I just kept thinking, what do we do that describes, the cuts that we give, the way that we live our life, how, our culture and everything. And we kept coming back to the word dope, because every time somebody would get out of a chair, that was the first thing to say, well, that's a dope cut. Yeah. Or somebody would pull up in a really nice car, and they would be, oh, that's a dope car. Right. So it was something that was just describing, our culture and everything that we did. And I was, why can't we use that word, and
Yeah.
and the only thing that I had, I was scared of, or was thinking that there is a clothing line out there. Everybody knows the clothing line. They've seen the hats, and I didn't want people to think that we were trying to copy something that was there. But it was more of trying to describe our culture,
Yeah.
how we do our cuts, the styles that we have, and to put that in the forefront.
Yeah, well, and the name is, like you said, it's unique to your culture, because you're absolutely right. I mean, anytime we see something fresh, oh, that's dope.
Yep.
And so that makes sense, and it's been really neat to see how you've really turned that into a marketing machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your customers, your clients, right? They're not just customers, they're clients.
Right.
I mean, these are people that have been with you since day one, and in your barbers, you've got a great support staff. Tell me, how do you believe in them to a point to where you've created this level of loyalty from from a barber level, like I said, to your customers or clients? How did you ingrain that trust?
Well, with my barbers, we have 25 barbers now. We were fortunate that our first shop kind of took off so fast and became so known that people wanted to come and work for us.
Right.
We didn't have to put people in spots just to have money coming in, or out of necessity. We got to sit back and pick and choose who we wanted, and that was just the biggest blessing I've had, is that I've got to pick and choose who I want on my team, who I believe in, who I think has the same mindset as us,
there you go,
has the same vision as us, and that helps out with them also representing our shop. That's representing awesome. our name, and they are just as hungry as we are. They're just as motivated as we are. They stand behind our brand, and I think that's why we're so successful. We have guys that want to be part of our team, and we both come from sports backgrounds and playing sports our whole lives, and that was huge for me, is I wanted to build a team. I wanted to build people around me that had that same vision and the same goals, and were as motivated as we are. So that's kind of where we came from.
Right on. You mentioned two words, and for anybody out there that's listening, that's like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm creating a team, or I'm in a position now where I may be joining a team. You mentioned the same mindset. I mean, obviously you've got a mindset, and you were very clear on the type of people that you wanted to surround yourselves with, and then the next one was the same values. And I've had my haircut just by about everybody at your shops, and I can literally say, they may have their own skill set and their own artistry to how they cut, but man, the way that they approach each person, it's personable. You could tell the vibe is good when you walk in. And some people out there may be saying, my thing is in real estate, or my thing is with creating something more on the tech side. But at the end of the day, it's you're surrounding yourself with people that have the same mindset, the same value set, and then you've seen the exponential growth, just like in Dope.
Right. I think that's one of the biggest factors of us being successful. Whether you're a barber, you're in real estate, you're any other kind of business. If you're trying to build something, you need people that have the like mindset as you, that have the same kind of motivation as you, and then the same overall vision and goals that where you want to get to. You can't have somebody that's not going to put in the time and effort that you're going to put in,
right?
And you're just not going to be successful that way if you have those kind of people.
Yeah, well, and I want to dive a little deeper, because we're kind of at the surface. I know you've shared some of these things with a lot of people, but I want to get into the fun stuff that some people don't think about when they are getting ready to launch, and that is time management. Right. I've had the good fortune, because our boys do hang out and they've gone to school together. They've played on the same sports teams together. And I know personally, we run a similar schedules that, we're kind of running in different directions. The phones never stop,
right.
Because not only do you have your customers, you've got your barbers, and there's levels of, managing all the fun chaos and prioritizing. How do you do it?
That's a good question. With a lot of help.
Yeah, right.
With a lot of help, with a good support system for sure. Yeah. My parents, my son's mother's parents, just our family members, our extended family members with, my clients have really become my family. I've been cutting kids that started in junior high and now they're graduating college, so I've known their parents. So it goes really deeper than that, just of being friends with people. You become family. Yeah. They all help you out. You help them out. And, with my son's friends and all of their parents, and we're so blessed and we're so
Yeah.
grateful to have those kind of people that are all surrounding us. And I mean, they make us want to be better people too, as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's always trying to manage your time, to be successful and to keep something going, that's going to be beneficial to everybody. And it's really hard to do that by yourself. I mean, it really takes a village, you know what I mean? And
True.
so I'm really blessed and fortunate that way.
Well, and the other thing that I hope some listeners take from this is, you have been involved. I've seen you help coach, right?
Right.
Yeah. So balancing that, like you said, you got to delegate. There's going to be things that unfortunately are going to be missed,
Right.
but your people understand because they know where your heart's at. I mean, what is the end? Like we always say, what's your big why?
Right.
You go through so much chaos. You probably put yourself through more headaches than most would be willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's something really big that you're working towards or working for. What are some of those things that you have in the big grand scheme of things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for something more.
Yeah.
I think it's a good driving force for anybody, is never be satisfied with where you're at.
Right.
And a legacy. I want to leave something for, my family, for my son. I want him to have something to be proud of.
Yeah.
I would
dope.
love for him to take over maybe in the future if he wants. He always says if his major league career doesn't work out, that he might become a barber. But I really want something to leave behind that is impactful. You know, and I want. You see these. I've grown up here in the Valley my whole life and seen these businesses be here for 40 or 50 years, and they're just staples. You know who they are, and that's what I want to be. I want to be known throughout the Valley, being one of the best barber chains around, and to leave that for not just me, but for all of my guys that work for me.
Yeah.
And another thing, going back to what your other question was, is that I have really good people that are running my shops.
No doubt.
And I trust them with my life, and without them, we wouldn't be successful at all. So it's not just me, it's all of these people that are kind of pitching in, that are helping out, that have that same vision and the same goals. And, without them, I mean, we wouldn't be anything.
That's dope. Yeah. No. And one thing, speaking of culture, and like you said, you've got this great support staff and everybody's got each other's back. You take care of your people, right?
Right.
I mean, what are some of the things that you feel are important for nurturing that and growing that culture?
You have to just care about them. You
Yeah.
know, you have to care about these as people, and you want to see them succeed, because ultimately, if they're successful, I'm successful.
Yeah.
And I can't have someone in there that, like I said, just doesn't have the same goals as me, or doesn't have the same drive, or doesn't have the same motivation as me, because they're going to drag us down. It's always it's cliche, but you're as strongest as your weakest link.
Yeah.
And so we can't have somebody in there that just doesn't want to do what we are, or is not on the same page as we are, because they're not going to be successful, and they're going to make us hurt in the long run.
Well, let's talk about some of the fun stuff, because that's kind of what you hit on a great point there. You're absolutely right, that you make sure your team is well-rounded. Right. But I mean, you also pour into them. I mean, you guys do things outside of, the shop that, help that team, like you were saying earlier, to keep that camaraderie built. What are some of the events that you guys typically like to do? I think, and this is going to give some people ideas, because there's a lot of times it's like, I want to do something with my team, or I'm trying to grow,
The best marketing thing I've ever learned is just getting your name out there in front of people. And whether it be walking into a grocery store and seeing our name on the cart, or going to an event and walking by us and just seeing, I've heard of that place before. But it's branding yourself to where you're in so many people's faces, and you're going to get eye rolls. You're going to get like, oh my God, these guys again. But they're going to remember us, So that's our biggest thing, is like, whatever we can do in far as in front of the community, we're going to be there. We're going to be at, sporting events. We're going to be at concerts. We're going to be at, anything for kids. I mean, we're huge on that, because kids are probably, 75% of our clientele almost.
Right.
We do a lot of kids. So we want to be there for sports programs, and we want to be there helping them out for back to school cuts, or doing anything for, for kids that are in, not as fortunate as other kids, know. And so we want to help them out, and just be out there so everybody kind of sees, this barbershop really cares about the community and the people coming in, and we want them to know that.
And that's exactly kind of where I was going with that, is you guys have become, because of, the things you do outside together, you've become part of the community.
Right.
And I think for anybody that's thinking about, building something, they've got to understand, for one, who they're with, and then also how they're going to be a part of the community and contribute. And so what are some of the things, I mean, I've seen you very involved in Little League and beyond, but you guys have also volunteered and lent some of your time at some events, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of, there's programs out there for kids for less fortunate kids. I hate saying, any kind of derogatory term towards them, but, kids that come up, in harder neighborhoods, that are just don't have, the things that other kids have. And I mean, it's hard, for a mother of, 4 kids that has to go get a $25, $30 haircut each kid,
Yeah.
And so back to schools come. So we do a lot of event for back to schools for less
Very
fortunate kids. We go out there, we do free cuts for them, give them that, that feeling that you get when, you show up to your day at your first school and you're, proud of yourself because you look good and you have a good haircut. So we do a lot of those things. Anytime anybody calls us up and says, hey, can you come out and do an event for these kids? Can you guys come out and lend your time? We're there. No questions asked. We're going to be there and we're going to help out. And I'm going to get some of our barbers to come and help out too, and because they get to give back as well.
Yeah.
And it makes them feel really good that they're helping out these kids.
Right on. And I've seen, you're a great leader. I've seen the way that you've helped elevate some of the people, because this is just my observation, right? And any barber out there listening or watching, you guys can disagree, but I feel like, it's an artistry, to be a barber, right?
100%.
And sometimes you're in, you got to get in that zone. But to see that, and some of them may have never played team sports, right? Because they hone their crafts, and sometimes it's more one-on-one. But I've seen how you have brought kind of that mentality to everybody, and and it really gets people to get out of their shells. I've seen some people just over the years, when I walk back in, I'm like, man, this person seems to be more vibrant,
Right.
So I think it's important how you definitely, again, you kind of build those people up, and then they get to contribute and they feel like they're doing something bigger.
I'm fortunate that I did other, careers before I became a barber, and was in, that culture of, team building, and been on many, deals where you had to go in and you had to learn, the team building activities and learn how to bring the best out of each one of your, your team members. So I've always brought that back into what we've got. And I think that's kind of why we're a little bit more successful, is because we're structured.
Yeah.
A lot of barbershops, you have these guys that come out, they're really good at cutting hair, but they've never had structure in their whole life.
Yeah.
So they show up at noon, they leave at 4. They kind of do whatever they want. They take off for 2 hours to go have lunch.
Yeah.
The way that we run our shops is how you would run any other business that you're going to walk into. We're going to be there when the time says that we're open.
Right.
We're going to be there when the time says we close. We're not going to be taken off at all times of the day. When you walk into our shops, you're going to get helped.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel like you're walking into a legit business. It's not just some guys cutting out of a garage.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're a little bit more successful. We do things by the book. We've built up that reputation that, when you go in, you're going to feel like you're in a corporate setting, but you're not. We're a mom and pop place, but you're going to feel like we're a franchise, So that's the kind of what I wanted. I wanted to have best of both worlds on that.
Very cool, man. There's a lot of similarities when it comes to how we approach things, because I see what you're saying, and I know what you're saying, and I definitely have seen that you definitely approach it that way. And I know you wear it on your shoulder too, that you want to be the best,
right?
And that's
100%.
definitely a mindset. But more than a mindset, you take the actions with that. So let's talk, go kind of backtracking a little bit to just the beginning of it. Now that Vince has been doing this for since 2010, 11, essentially,
right.
Been a barber, been in the community. You've taken the risk of going out, building a heck of a team. Helping build people up and putting them in positions of leadership. Right now, our community, as the rest of the nation and has been hit with, the shelter in place, small businesses are being affected, and, groomers, barbers are considered not essential,
right.
even though we all know what people look like.
We are.
Yeah, right. Small business, is the backbone of our country, bottom line. And I won't get too much into the politics of it all, but you posted something very interesting on Facebook yesterday, kind of... I guess, the entrepreneur, the person who just wants to persevere and get out there and get back to work was like, hey, you know what? let's just go ahead and kind of go against the grain, take the fines that come with it, but then share what happened once you start talking to your crew.
Yeah. So, me personally, and I think this is just me as a person. When I'm in this leadership role, I feel like I'm responsible for every one of my guys, and I feel like almost like they're my kids, and I care about what they're doing, about if they're struggling, and want to do something to help them out. And it was a real big letdown, hearing that the mayor was going to extend for another month.
Right.
We've been out almost 7 weeks now, since March 19th. I know my guys are struggling, financially. They're frustrated.
Right.
And I just wanted to do something to get them to be okay. And I know I'm okay right now, but I'm afraid for my guys.
Right.
And so when this came out, I was really weighing the option of just defying the order and opening up anyways. And I've had several other salon owners and barbershop owners contact me and say, we're going to do it. We this is something that we got to do. We can't sit back anymore and let these guys dictate what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I was weighing that option, but as I do with everything that we do, I put it to a vote.
Right.
I go to all of my guys and ask, what's your opinion? How do you feel about this? I don't want to do anything that you're not comfortable with. I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt your business as well, because they're all self-employed. They're all independent contractors. They all have their own clientele. I didn't want to do anything that's going to, hurt them.
Right.
They all came back with a resounding no. I think we should stay closed. And what was shocking to me was that I know that what the situations that they're in, because I talk to them individually.
Yeah.
I always send them out a text to see how they're doing, what's going on with them. Do they need any help? Because I do want to help them if they are struggling. And they all said, no, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the perception of the community looking at us and saying that these guys are going to put the health and safety of us in jeopardy just to make some money.
Yeah.
And that was a real big eye opener for me. It gave me a lot of clarity, thinking that, they're right. Like, we've done everything the right way and by the book to get where we're at.
Sure.
We have structure. We've been that model of what a barbershop should be, in my opinion. And if we go against this order, I think we're throwing that all out the window. And it was a real big, just like I said, eye opener for me. And I was like really proud of these guys. I sent them back a message. I go, you guys have no idea how proud I am of you guys right now for being adult about it, being logical about it.
True.
Because a lot of people aren't logical about what's going on right now, and they had the wherewithal to kind of step back from the situation and say, hey, this is going to hurt us in the long run. I don't think we should do it. And so it was pretty powerful.
Wow, that's solid. It says a lot about the team and the integrity of what you guys are building, and not wanting to, there's that old saying, you can, all your hard work, 10 years of hard work can go away with, in 5 minutes of doing something. So, and the great thing is you're going to get the support of the community. You have, it's been great. If you guys have not already, follow Dope Barbershop on Instagram, on Facebook. Hopefully, things do change a lot sooner than we expect, and you guys will be able to get back to work. Prior to any of this even happening, I was like, I got to get Vince on the show. I've known him. He's been a friend. He's been a leader in the community, again, providing opportunities for others and building them up. And all the while, I mean, you're still learning, right?
Right, 100%.
Right on.
Yeah, never stop. Never stop learning. That's a big thing for mine, too, is the education part of it, too. Is that's why I go back and I do all of these talks, and I go to these schools, and I go to try to give my advice, to these young kids coming up, and because I'm always learning from them, too, you know what I mean? I don't have all the answers. I'm really big on that I go to all of my, leaders, and I ask them, I need your opinion. I'm not going to sit there and make a choice without your guys' opinion on it.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to do something, and I think it's the right way, and it's 100% going to work, and blah, blah. And I get one of my guys telling me, dude, look at it from this perspective.
Yeah.
Look at it from this way, and then I'm like, whoa, wow, thank you.
So,
I would have did something that would have probably hurted us, but you helped out and changed my mind on it. So it's really, like I said, I'm fortunate to have these guys.
That's awesome. So obviously a lot of maturity happening and still being able to keep the mind open. So let's kind of wrap things up on this. It's kind of in the same vein of what we're covering. What is Vince today telling Vince of yesteryear, before you're getting ready to take this leap? What is the advice that Vince today is giving the advice before you're getting started to?
That's a really good question. I have 100 things I could probably tell myself.
Yeah.
But business-wise,
Yeah.
well, not to change who you are,
Yeah.
and to stick to what your main concept is, and
Yeah.
don't ever change to be like somebody else, or to think what this is what this guy would like, or this is what this person would do.
Right.
Always stick to your core values and what you believe in, and I think we've done that for the most part. There's 100 things that I would change probably, but I don't want to lose myself and what I believe in, just to make some money.
That's awesome.
I always want, to show all these other guys, this is what you can do, and you can do it the right way.
For sure. And what you just did right now is you basically gave somebody listening that's getting started, or getting ready to get going, that same thought, like, hey, I got to stay true to myself, and I need to trust the process and see it through.
Right.
So right on, man. So Vince, as always, and for those that are, very critical of, the 6 foot social distancing, things may seem closer than they appear. We are actually 10 feet apart, just so that you guys know. But again, I do appreciate you taking time.
We can do a fist bump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully somebody's taking a nugget away from this meeting. This is somebody building, a barber empire, and we're going to look back, in 15, 20 years and say, remember that time we were talking about building it. So, again, reach out to Vince. If you have any additional questions, follow him on Facebook, social media, on Instagram, and it's Dope Fresno, right?
Dope Barbershop Fresno on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. All 3 shops are on Facebook. Our website, which we're really proud of, is www.dopebarbershopfresno.com.
Right on.
You can actually go there. You can see all of our barbers, see their bios, and you can actually book with them online as well.
Right on. All right, you guys. Again, thank you for tuning in. Episode 4, it's a wrap. Stay dope, and we'll see you next time. Take care.